The Squid Game Season 3 trailer was recently released, and there was one line in particular that stood out to me, and I actually think it was one of the most important details in the trailer. It was the final line within it, so one could argue that it was the statement that the showrunners truly wanted to leave us with and have us thinking about most over the coming weeks before the final season gets released. This was when the frontman said to Gi-Hun, "Do you still have faith in people?" after taking off his mask and revealing his identity to him in what I feel will be towards the end of the show. This statement is applicable to the show in many different ways, and I think it's going to be the core theme of what's present throughout the final season. So with that, I thought I'd share my thoughts on the transformation of certain characters that I think we'll see in the next season, the core themes that are going to be explored, and explain why that final line is so important. So let's get into it. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. "Do you still have faith in people?" is a line of dialogue that really stuck with me following the trailer being released, and it stayed with me for a number of different reasons. For example, the first reason, which is most likely the most obvious one, is that when In-ho reveals his true identity to Gi-Hun, In-ho will basically be exposing himself as a liar and the person that was responsible for killing Jong-bae and inflicting all of the suffering onto the contestants for the purpose of entertainment, dating back to when Gi-Hun was first in there in Season 1, which I think will add even more weight to the emotions that he'll be feeling. This is because somebody that Gi-Hun actually cared about in Season 2 and believed that he truly knew would be something that was all a facade. The weight of this deceit is something that will show the untrustworthy nature of all people that he's closest to, and it'll tie into the saying of how well do you truly know somebody. Gi-Hun is somebody that looks for the good in people, and throughout the entire run of the show, he's been one of the few people that hasn't put his own life above others if it meant that he'd have to go against his moral values and kill them. And even though most wouldn't do it for him, he still acts in a way that he believes is right, showing the type of person that he is down to his core, which is drastically different to a lot of people that are in there. However, within this season of the show, there's been more division amongst the contestants due to the voting element that's been present after every round, where the contestants were able to decide if they wanted to continue, knowing full well that themselves and others around them could die. Gi-Hun, having obviously played these games before, went back into the games to do his best to get them all out of there and to shut them down for good. But the harsh reality of the situation that he's seeing inside is the side to humankind that we don't see because this type of experience doesn't exist in our reality. But we know it's hard-coded within people because we see it being exhibited in other ways. The selfish nature that some have within them, and the fact that those that are struggling in society find themselves in a situation where they have to resort to measures like that to survive because the help isn't there with the elite, because the elite just simply look down on them. Many people inside of those games are there because they're in debt due to their own actions, and they're also looking to pay it off and live a life where they don't owe any more money. And in order for them to do it, they essentially have to tread on the toes of people that they're closest to and also people that they don't like, watch them die, and then progress on to the next round. Some of these people don't want to be helped because the death of others doesn't sit on their conscience like it should, and they'd rather be one step closer to the finish line because there's that selfishness that runs through them. As long as they're okay, then who cares? As we've seen with the fact that the majority have been choosing to continue the games even though they barely escaped with their life before, or people that they were once standing alongside were no longer there. No matter how hard Gi-Hun has fought in order to stop the games, to change people's minds, and to kill the soldiers with the uprising in the Season 2 finale, not everybody wanted to be a part of it. And it's like a reset button gets pressed and the opposing mindset to him always ends up winning, showing the mindset that's present amongst the majority there, which is that they don't actually want saving and that they're prepared to do horrific things if it means that they get a life-changing amount of money. Simply only looking out for oneself. This is something that I think In-ho could be referring to when he says that line, because Gi-Hun has had faith in people that they'd do the right thing whilst he's been within the games. But time after time, the opposite thing has ended up happening and he's been let down consistently and met with resistance, ultimately showing him a side to humankind that he doesn't like. So it's as if his mind has slowly been getting chipped away at, and it's a surprise that he still tries. This is why I then think that In-ho will reveal himself to be the frontman, somebody that was alongside Gi-Hun, a person that even saved his life and shared stories about his past with. That could genuinely be one of the final tests for him, because Gi-Hun hasn't shown any signs of changing sides, losing his faith in people, and wanting to do the right thing. But if somebody that he shared laughs with, stories with, and emotions with all turns out to be a lie, could that be the final thing that breaks him? You never know, it could well be. When looking at Gi-Hun and In-ho from 2015, they aren't actually that different of people. They both went in there to support somebody that they loved, Gi-Hun with his daughter and In-ho with his wife. However, the difference is, In-ho was broken by the fact that his wife died, and that was what set him on a different pathway. So I think the mirrored stories and motives when they both first entered the games is something that shows that you're only one tragedy away from your life changing for good and your moral values being thrown into question. I think we'll also likely learn more about In-ho's backstory and his wife in the following season, which I think will actually paint Gi-Hun and In-ho in a similar light and show just how similar they actually are. It feels like the purpose of the games with Gi-Hun and the overarching view of the show is to see if Gi-Hun will break, and over the course of the 3 seasons, it seems like we're seeing him gradually change ever so slightly. For example, in the first season, he was determined and focused. In the second season, he was within himself and was fighting back in a more passive way. But in this next season, judging by the trailer, it seems like anger and rage is going to be at the core of the character, as we saw him tied up and grabbing contestant 44 around the neck. Something that he's not done before. So Gi-Hun changing is In-ho's goal, and I think him ultimately becoming the frontman would mark the completion of the mission. Plus, it would also be representative of Gi-Hun becoming the very thing that he despised and was fighting against in the beginning. I'd also say that I feel like a core theme of the show that's going to be explored is that people can't be saved unless they genuinely want saving, and that stands for the destruction of the games. People are choosing to subject themselves to the games time after time and are voting to proceed. So how can you stop that if it's what people actually want? Okay, these games could be destroyed if Gi-Hun is successful, but then another would just pop up somewhere else. Society has to change as a whole, help has to be given, and the overall behavior of people has to change for the wider effect to be felt. So I think it could be a real bleak ending if the games don't get destroyed, Gi-Hun gives up and ends up becoming the frontman, essentially showing that nothing can be done. But what I will say is that it would definitely be a powerful one. There's something about having these childhood games that we all used to play for fun, which is associated with a time where there was such innocence and no consequences, instead now being played by adults and being met with deadly consequences if they messed up due to their own actions, that just feels really appropriate. People are in there because they messed up, and instead of helping, the elites simply watch them all die for entertainment. So the commentary on society is definitely there. So in tying back to the most important line in the trailer, do you still have faith in people? Something Gi-Hun has had throughout the entirety of the show. The conclusion of Season 3 will most likely be the very thing that answers that. If he becomes the frontman, then he doesn't, and if the games get destroyed, then he still does. This is just one core theme that I think the show's going to explore, but I feel it's one of the main talking points. Gi-Hun's faith in people and the deceit that he's going to be feeling and how it will impact him. So, there you have it. If you want to see a full breakdown of Season 2 of Squid Game or a full Season 3 trailer breakdown, then check the videos below. Are you looking forward to Season 3? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.